seeing everything that we're seeing through the eyes of our kids and making those memories now with them, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So I want other people to know that they can do that too.
Welcome back to the RV Queens podcast, where we dive into the incredible world of women living life and making money on the road. Today, we're joined by Stacy Maxon, a full-time RV mom, business owner, and COO of Fireside RV Rentals. Stacy shares her inspiring journey from a corporate career to building a thriving RV rental business with her husband. And she dives into the nuts and bolts of how you can make passive income by renting out your RV. She gives lots of practical tips for anyone looking to get started. We also explore why the RV lifestyle is so close to Stacy's heart and wrap up with some of her favorite books and tools for making life on the road easier. This is a must listen for anyone dreaming of turning their RV into a business or simply looking to live a life with more freedom. So grab your coffee and let's roll. Stacy Maxon, welcome to the RV Queens podcast. Where in the world are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I am actually in Bryce Canyon, Utah. We just got here yesterday.
Are you staying close to the Ruby's Inn stuff?
Yeah, that's actually where we are.
Oh my gosh, we were just there a couple weeks ago and we only scheduled ourselves there like 2 days and we got there like, what? This place is awesome. We should have spent a week here. It's so nice.
Yeah, we're here for a week. So after this, you'll have to give me all the tips.
Well, I have 2 days worth of tips. And so I'll just let you know what I know. That area is super beautiful though. Like I would love to go back. Okay. So these days, Stacy, you are a busy business owner. You're a full-time RV mom with 3 kids and a very full plate. You're the COO of a company. You are the author of a thriving online newsletter, a co-host of a podcast, but this wasn't always what your life looked like. So take me back to 2019 before any of this RV rental stuff started and describe what your life was like.
Yeah. So back in 2019, my husband was working full-time in a corporate position that he had been at for like 16 years since before we got married. I had just had my 3rd child. He was about 1 at the time. And, I was working a part-time job opposite my husband's schedule so that we could, take care of the kids and not have to pay daycare. And it was, just, we weren't happy. We had the house and, the jobs and the money coming in. And we just had no time to do anything with us working opposite schedules. So I'm always have kind of been an entrepreneur, always looking for new ways to make money. So I had heard about RV rentals and it took a while, but I talked my husband into renting out our own personal RV. So we put it on the platforms, RV Share and Outdoorsy, that are out there. And that first summer, we were pretty successful and we had money just coming in from something that we weren't using, we already had. So at that point, after that first summer, I was like, wait, like maybe we could buy another RV and like make a business out of this. So I did some research and found instead of buying other RVs, there was actually an RV rental management opportunity where basically you rent out other people's RVs. And there was a company that was franchised that was already doing this, and that's Fireside RV Rental. So we decided to purchase a franchise for our location in upstate New York. And that's kind of how we, got into the business world and into the RV rental business.
Making the assumption that you guys had an RV and you were familiar with RVing and that whole sector of camping. And then how did you go from operating the Fireside RV franchise to becoming part of the Fireside team?
In 2019, in the fall is when we started with Fireside franchise, our own franchise, and we built that up to 20 units. At that point, my husband left his full-time corporate job and we both went full-time into the business. Because it replaced his salary. So we were able to do that. He also got trained as a certified RV tech. So we added that to our services. So we were making a good living. We kind of always had the dream of owning a campground. And now that we were in the industry, we were doing like a lot of research and found the opportunity to purchase one in the area that we lived. So we actually sold our house, we sold our franchise, and we were going to use all of that money as the down payment on the campground. So we went through the whole due diligence process, and during that, we found that there was major septic issues with the RV park. Yeah. So we decided to back out of the sale. At that point, we already sold the house, we already sold the franchise. So we were kind of looking at what do we do next with our life. So the founder and CEO of Fireside came to me because we were working pretty closely at that point. And he asked if I wanted to invest in Fireside and come on to the corporate side of things. So, it took us a few months to make that decision, but we decided that would be a good investment. So we used that money to invest in Fireside. And then I took a full-time role as COO of Fireside.
Okay, quick question. And I should have asked you this a few minutes ago. What kind of jobs were you working before you guys kind of transitioned over to being entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so my husband, he was in telecommunications. So he worked on the construction side of a cable company throughout the years. And I was always in like health insurance. I worked as a pharmacy tech, was the job that I quit to then run the business.
Well, I'm asking that because I love stories where people reinvent themselves. And I was just actually writing about this on our RV Queens community Discord channel today about this idea of, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you put so much time and effort into it's usually like one career, and you build up a network all about this one career, and you're just kind of trying to get to the highest level that you think you can. And sometimes that's not always what on the inside, you're like, why? You get to this point where why am I still doing this? I'm not as happy as I thought I was. This is not the life that I thought it was going to be. It's really hard to make that transition from this is who I've told the world that I am and everything I've put my identity in, and then bing, make the switch hey guys, I'm actually not this at all anymore. And here's what I am now. So this is kind of a personal question, but was that a hard transition for you to make that switch over to a new career path and a completely new endeavor?
So I was working full time until my second child was born. And then I was a stay-at-home mom at that point. So I kind of already knew, like you said, I was like, why am I working in the insurance industry? This was not my dream. I have no interest in this. So when I had my second child, I was able to stay home with both kids. They were only 2 years apart. And then, I had that focus of being a mom. And then I kind of worked some part-time jobs, to fill in some money and just, keep myself busy. And then when we had our third child, he was 6 years younger than the other two. So there's a big age gap. So, I was ready for something more at that point, I think. But my husband, he has never been an entrepreneur. He's always just, he was in the Army, and then he had his career and was always used to being told what to do. So that was a huge change for him. And the fact that all of his family, weren't necessarily supportive because they're you're leaving the 401k and, all this security, what are you doing? So I'd say it was a lot more difficult for him to make that jump than it was for me.
Yeah. Oh man, those are the classic relationship strains, especially when it's your family. It's like, you're doing what? And you're like, yeah, that's those are challenging. Okay, we can have a whole podcast about this, but I'm going to keep asking you about how this RV rental situation works. I have a lot of like specific questions for you because I'm coming at this like not knowing anything. First of all, if I'm not going to be an RV Fireside like franchise owner, how can I make money from renting out my RV?
I mean, there's a couple different ways. One, you could choose to rent it out yourself, like I did in the beginning, and just list it on, one of the popular platforms. Or two, you could have Fireside or another RV rental management company rent it out for you. And that's a completely passive income. So basically, you just, hand over the RV to us, and then we do all of the work. We do the inquiries, the insurance, the cleaning, the deliveries, and then you would split the profit of the nightly rate.
A question that comes up immediately to me, and I'm guessing a lot of listeners, is what if somebody completely messes up my RV? If I hand it over and I'm just like, yeah, I want to make some income, please just do all the management and everything and cut me a check. I don't know, someone gashes a huge hole in your floor or lights your camper on fire or something. What happens then?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had those extreme situations, but unfortunately, things do happen. So we actually had a rental where it was just a small, maybe like 20-foot camper, a travel trailer, and they were towing it, and they went under a low overpass and ripped the entire roof off. Yeah.
Oh
so we had commercial insurance on the RV, and it replaced it in full. So the RV owner was actually happy because he made more than what he had even paid for the RV. And they decided to buy a new RV and then put it back into the RV rental management program. So yeah, luckily there's insurance for those types of things.
Nice. Okay, another question that, again, I just have to ask because we're RV people. What if someone is staying in your RV and like sewer black tank problems happen? Like, does one of your techs go out and help resolve that? Or like, who's in charge of helping with all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the situation. Like when my husband and I had our franchise, like I kind of did all of the office work and then he worked on the deliveries. I said he was a certified RV tech. So he got tasked with all of those things. If they were, local, or if they weren't local, we could call someone that was. But yeah, I mean, we did education, like when we set up the RV to kind of, teach them not to, keep the black tank closed until, it's full, and then empty it out. So things like that helped having them well educated. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, there are times that, you have to deal with things that you don't want to deal with.
Stuff happens. That's right. Okay, let me ask you a hypothetical because, again, I think listeners will be able to relate with this story. So we are full-time RVers and we bought our rig completely new in 2022. It's a fifth wheel. It's about 42 feet. And we realize there's so much attrition that if we sold our model right now, we wouldn't even make our money back on it. And this is only 2 years later, right? But maybe if we rented it out, we could cover the cost of the loan, instead of selling it and not making and like taking a hit. What if we rented it out and could cover the loan? That would be amazing. So can you ballpark for us, like today, if I put a fifth wheel up for rent, like for a whole year, just handed it over to the management company, what kind of income can the RV owner expect to make?
So this is actually a very common problem and, a reason why we get a lot of the units because they owe so much more than it's worth. So, they can use that money that they make to pay down their principal or, like you said, just cover the costs for that. It's going to depend on the area they listed in. But like a fifth wheel like that would probably go around $200 a night. And in our area in upstate New York, we had a similar fifth wheel It was a Montana, a 2021. We rented it for about $200 a night, and they made $8,000 during the summer season. So that's a 6-month season. Campgrounds are pretty much shut down the rest of the year. But between, I would say, 6 to 10,000, depending on the area that you're going to be renting it out in.
Have you found any areas that rent out year round? Or is it mostly just seasonal, summer rentals that work out?
No, I mean, in Florida, we have locations in Arizona, Las Vegas, California. They have their busy seasons, but it's, they're able to rent it out year round and get year round income.
All right, Stacey, you're the COO of Fireside RV Rentals, as we've been discussing, and you train new franchise owners. So first of all, who would you say is a good candidate to run a franchise location?
I would say someone that has experience in the RV industry is definitely helpful. To have some knowledge of how an RV works, if you know your local campgrounds, things like that is really going to help you when you need to build those relationships. And just, being business minded, good problem solving skills. There's always going to be an issue, no matter how much you plan. So just being able to know how to take those challenges and make something, good come out of it.
Like running any business. That's right. So my second question here is this the type of franchise that can be run by someone who travels full time, or is it pretty location dependent?
Yeah, it's location dependent. I would say, especially starting out, it's good for the first year to run it yourself and know how everything works. But after that point, you could hire a manager to manage it for you. For us, being a seasonal location, we stayed at that location for the 6 months, and then we had the other 6 months to travel. So that's kind of how we started out. And now, of course, I'm visiting the different franchises and doing training while we're on the road to help make sure that they're successful.
All right, I want to switch gears for just a minute, go back to some personal questions. So you write a newsletter called Escaping the Ordinary. You write that it's more than just information about RVing, but it's actually a movement for those who live with purpose, passion, and the pursuit of more. And on top of that, like we've discussed, you spend your waking hours teaching business owners how to make money from RVs, and you co-host a podcast about it. So tell me, why is RVing so important to you?
Yeah, it's something that's always been in my life. Both my husband and I, we grew up with families that had RVs. And just having those memories as a kid, that meant a lot to me, having that time with my family. So when we got married, it was just the obvious choice to buy our own RV and start making those memories, as us as a couple and then as a family as we got kids. So that's kind of how I got into the RV industry, is I wanted other families to be able to make those memories, even if they didn't own an RV. The newsletter kind of came into that this past year once we started going full time, just because I have such a passion for the RV life. And I kind of wanted to show that experience to people. I hear so many times, people are like, oh, well, we'll travel when we retire. And it's why not do it now? Seeing everything that we're seeing through the eyes of our kids and making those memories now with them, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So I want other people to know that they can do that too.
It especially just makes my heart squeeze a little whenever people say, oh, you travel full time? That's my dream. And I just want to be you can, you can do it. We're just normal people. This is accessible. It's easier than ever to travel with your family full time and to homeschool and to work remotely. And I feel the same way. Again, we could talk about that all day, I feel. So yeah, Thank you so much, Stacey. This has been so inspiring. Go ahead and share with everyone where they can connect with you online, and then I'll ask my final question.
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me at Stacy Maxon. Or if you want to sign up for the newsletter, that's escapingtheordinarylife.com.
I'm going to end this episode with one of my new favorite things I've been doing on the podcast. We're going to end with, I call it a 1-in-1 round, where we each share one book and one tool that we've been into these days. So to start, go ahead and share a book, and it can be a business book, it can be fiction, it can be a cookbook, like whatever, some book that you're into these days.
Last February, I got to see Ben Hardy speak at a mastermind, and I found out about his book, 10X is Easier Than 2X. And I read it, and when he spoke about it, it just sounded like me to a T. So it was something I really resonated with, and I love to recommend that book to other people as well.
I love that. And now that you say it, I remember you mentioned that in our Marco Polo group. Was that last month, I think? And I forgot to write it down to look it up. So now it's in here. I got to look that one up. The book I've been into lately, this is like going to sound so flaky and dumb compared to your answer, but a couple weeks ago, we were at a KOA, and our campsite was like far enough away from the laundry room that I'm like, I don't want to walk back and forth 4 times. I'm just going to hang out around the laundry room. And they had some of those like, books that you can just take one, like a little lending library. And it's called A Tart of Darkness. It's just like this super easy reading, like murder mystery type book. But it's about this woman who quit her corporate career to start a high-end like chef business, basically, where she cooks for really rich families. I think the reason I love it is because I'm like daydreaming about being so wealthy that I can have someone cook for me like high-end cuisine every night. How amazing would that be? And then clean it up. Oh, that's the dream right there. So yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Well, I always read like a business book, and then I'm really into psychological thrillers too. So I usually read like 1-in-1. So yeah, yes. I'll have to look that one up.
Okay. Speaking of psychological thrillers, total sidebar. Did you know there's an author with the name of Kate White that writes psychological thrillers?
No, I haven't looked that up before.
I actually really like her writing style, because it's like fast paced and just, I don't know. I just really like it, but I feel so self-conscious reading it. So I'm like, it just feels silly to read a book by someone with my same name. Yeah. There's another series for you to look up to at some point. Okay. So now let's hear about a tool that is changing your life these days. It can be anything, an app. It can be an online tool. It can be a kitchen tool. It can be, I don't know, whatever. You pick something.
Yeah, so I'm going to say, I don't know if you use this, but Descript.com. So that's what I use to edit our podcast and some online videos, things like that. So basically, like, you upload a video and it transcribes it all for you. And then you just have to edit the transcription. Right. Which is a lifesaver for me. Like, I'm not good at video editing or audio editing. So that's something that I just love to do.
Yes. And it's getting really good where you can say, like, take out all of this word, and then it just automatically does all of it. I really like Descript as well. So speaking of tech tools, and I don't know if you've tried this one out or are looking for something like this, I use a platform called Opus. I think it's just like opus.pro. I'll put the link in the show notes for anyone, but where you upload like a full length, whatever. It can be a podcast. It can be a YouTube video. It can be TED Talk that you did, or like whatever. And then it will assess through the magic of AI. It reads the transcripts and then picks out the most interesting clips based on like whatever, the hook, what's trending, yada, yada. And then it automatically chops it up into short little like 10 to 60 second clips that you can use on social media to cut out that work for you. And then it also it will write like a paragraph caption for you to use. I use it as a starting point. I don't always just write I don't keep what AI writes because it's like so robotic. And then you can like go ahead and schedule it out to blast to your social media channels if you want. So
yeah, we use that as well. We use that to chop up the podcast and then put it out on YouTube. It's a lifesaver. I didn't know, can you schedule it right from there?
Yeah, there's like a little calendar tab that you go over. You got to like just connect what social channels. And then it automatically like, you have your caption and your hashtags and you say when you want it to go out. So yeah, good stuff. Technology for the win. Thank you again for inspiring us all today, Stacy, and for being on the show. I have really enjoyed this conversation and also just getting to know you more.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Me too. Alrighty, I will see you on the road. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode and for being part of the RV Queens community. Remember to hit subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And guess what? You can have conversations like I had on this episode with your fellow RV women who are living intentionally and making money on the road. Head to rvqueenspodcast.com/community to join RV Queen Circles today. It's a totally unique online space with a shared prosperity model that's all about community over competition. I'd love to have you be a part. All right, guys, I'll see you next week, or hopefully I will see you on the road. This place is awesome.